We're here with 5th degree black belt, Brian J. Johnson, founder of Northwest Jiu-Jitsu Academy, also my professor, my coach, my good friend. How you doing, man?
I'm good.
Yeah, good. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, of course,
yeah.
absolutely. We both just got done rolling. This is the perfect time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You've been training jiu-jitsu for how long?
Well, I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in 1991.
Oh my goodness.
So, I've done some judo and some wrestling, and I did a martial art called Kaju Kembo before that. But I say I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in 1991, but it was kind of like out of a garage kind of thing, and it wasn't really until probably, I'd say 93 or something like that, that I got really consistent with it. And Rigan, my coach, we really started like training on a consistent basis.
So you were based in Seattle at the time, and you would travel down to California.
Yeah, and so that was the thing. So in the beginning, it was like this group of us. It consisted of like a few guys from my old judo buddies, and some of my old Kaju Kembo buddies, and some of my wrestling buddies. And so we had this guy that was a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, an American guy named Glenn Barber, and we were training with him, but it was very like every Tuesday at an Aikido school from like 3 to whenever or something like that. So that's kind of how it started. It wasn't very consistent, but we were doing the best that we could. And it wasn't until really I linked up with Rigan and started going down there and training on a regular basis that I really started taking jiu-jitsu serious. And I'd say that was probably like 92, end of 92, beginning of 93, something like that.
What drew you to jiu-jitsu?
Well, honestly, when I first started hearing about it and rolling with Glenn and stuff, and Glenn was just a blue belt at the time, very good though. I thought that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was basically something that I was already doing. I was already wrestling and already doing judo, and it just seemed like a combination of both, which to a certain extent it kind of is.
Yeah.
But then when like I said, when I went down and started training with Rigan, I remember thinking, yeah, this is pretty much what I do. And then I rolled with Rigan and I went, oh, this is not what I'm doing. He's doing something completely different. And I was so like amazed and intrigued by the things that he was doing and how easily he was doing them, and all the guys that were training with him. David Meyer and all these guys that David Meyer was like a purple belt, if that, for anybody that, David Meyer is now a coral belt. So, this was like a while ago, but I remember even David at a purple belt, one of Higgins' students, he just seemed like a wizard to me. And I thought I was a fairly young, scrappy, tough kid that knew judo and wrestled and all this stuff. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was just like so intriguing and so amazing to me. I was like, okay, I'm in.
Right.
What do I got to do?
Right. Yeah. And so you were there from the very beginning. I mean, these are like the roots of jiu-jitsu as it started to take root in America. And that's amazing.
I mean, that's one of the most the coolest things is that, I mean, we are jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, as far as what how we know it here in America, is still like pretty new. So we still can like rub elbows with these legends. And it just so happens that like my coach is one of those legends, which is really amazing. And he's the guy that I've been with since the very beginning.
Yeah, and that's Rigan Machado.
Yeah, Rigan Machado.
How did you come to, well, David Meyer you had mentioned, you had met him through Rigan. How did you get to know John Will as well?
Same time. So like I would go down, I remember going down and training, and then Rigan, and Higgins funny, like Rigan, he's like, when he shows up and he teaches, like it's like everybody comes out, especially back in those days.
Sure.
But but he was doing so many things, and even at that time, like still competing and doing some, he was just such a busy guy, still is to this day. But so a lot of times, like he would have other people teaching for him. And then he would just come in and blow our minds like once a week or something like that. Okay. But yeah, John Will I remember going in and John Will was teaching, and I was like, whoa, this guy is so good. Yeah. And I remember even David, before I even met John Will, David telling me, my buddy John is like, through the roof good. So
Yeah, I'd have to absolutely agree.
Yeah.
For sure. What would you attribute your longevity in the art for? You're one of the fittest people I know, for sure. What do you do things outside of the mat, off the mat, to kind of keep you healthy on the mat?
I will say this, and I don't want to be like, I don't want to make this like a, like you got to kind of tread very carefully, because everybody has their own journey, and what's right for me is not is not necessarily what's right for anybody else. But I honestly would say that the one thing that I attribute my longevity to is probably my diet. I've been a vegan since 2008. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be,
right,
but I would say diet has been a huge thing for me. I mean, even if you're just eating foods that are like, anti-inflammatory,
sure,
and, stuff like that, just feeling good and feeling healthy and having energy is huge.
Yeah.
So if you're eating a bunch of, crap, you're gonna feel like crap.
Right.
And so I think that's probably the biggest thing that I would say.
Okay.
But that like snowballs, right?
Sure.
Like, so if you're eating well, then you can train hard, then you can stay injury free, and then you can also do outside things, whether it be strength and conditioning and stuff like that. And most of my strength and conditioning is not there's anything wrong with beach muscles, but
sure,
it's not to get like, to necessarily like look good. It's more injury prevention than anything else. So.
So in terms of what would that look like during the week?
Well,
like
I do like circuit training on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, which is just like a, we'll do push, pull, carry. So one day we do push, one day we do pull, carry. And it's like 10 exercises, 1 minute each, 4 times through. And it's like, a lot of high rep body weight type stuff. I'm always mixing in conditioning. I'm always mixing in core training.
Yeah.
And then I do, and especially now that I'm getting a little bit older, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and sometimes Sundays, I do like a weightlifting kind of program.
Okay.
And I'll split it up in, different ways and stuff like that.
Okay.
But again, it's the same way. Like, I don't necessarily, and not that there's anything wrong with this, but I don't necessarily lift like a bodybuilder. I kind of lift more like high rep or isometric and things like that, which, I'm really trying to protect my joints and my, and stuff like that. So so whenever I'm lifting weights, I have that in mind.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the isometrics.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Me too.
Very protective for your joints. Yeah, for sure. And we can kind of go on at length about that for sure, right? We may at some point.
Mm-hmm.
With all your experience, you've seen so many people through the doors and on the mats here at Northwest Jiu-Jitsu. And unfortunately, quite a bit of attrition too, right? Like people come and go.
Yeah, for sure.
What would you say are a few of the attributes of people that stick around versus people that end up quitting or stopping their journey prematurely?
It's surprising, you can never judge a book by its cover, that's for sure. Some of the people that walked in through the door that I thought would never make it are here 25, 26 years later, still here. And then some of the people that I thought, oh man, this is going to be my next world champion, lasted 3 months. So, but I think, if you could just, and I know this isn't like anything revolutionary, but I think it's the people that make the decision to be consistent. So not necessarily make the decision to get to this belt, or not necessarily the people that make the decision to compete or anything like that. Although all those things are great, but it's the people that are consistent. Like, I'm going to come in every Tuesday and every Thursday, no matter what. I mean, and I know that that's kind of like, it's a broken record. Every jiu-jitsu coach will probably say that. Consistency is key. And like, it's just, I see people that have decided to be consistent, and that can be once a week or 6 times a week. But as long as you're consistent, whatever your lifestyle allows, and you just consistently come in here, you're going to sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly see a marked progression in your jiu-jitsu game, and it's going to become habit and routine, and it's going to be your community, your friendships. It's going to be your chill time after work. It becomes so much more. And when people make that like a ritual and they're consistent with it, they stick around, and they stick around for a long time. And then it's almost like it sneaks up on them. They go, oh yeah, I've been here for 9 years and I'm submitting half the room. Like, and I go, yeah, just because you've been showing up, you know. So I would say that that's the number one thing is just, you know, make the decision to be consistent. As hard as that may be for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
How have injuries played a role in your personal journey, and like, do you see it being an issue on the mat too?
Well, sure. I mean, this is definitely a combat sport.
Yeah.
So, you know, injuries are a part of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, especially if you're competing, you know, and you're getting ready to compete and stuff like that. You're pushing yourself. So, you know, injuries are an issue. And, you know, I've had a few injuries, and, you know, I knock on wood, I would say nothing major. Like I haven't had any, which is very rare. For somebody, you know, for somebody that's been doing jiu-jitsu as long as I haven't had any knee surgeries. I haven't had any shoulder surgeries.
Which is amazing.
It's incredible, you know. But
well, it speaks to what you do off the mat, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
A lot.
Yeah, I think so. It goes back to like, you know, training properly and doing something that's, you know, outside of jiu-jitsu. So I'm a big believer in training. Your training should complement your sport.
Right.
Right. And so if I'm training so hard at something that I can't do my sport, then I need to switch my training a little bit.
Yeah.
So, or same thing with like your food, you know, if you're, you know, eating in a way that's not like conducive to rolling well and stuff like that, then you got to change what you're eating. You know, so I'm a big believer in that. And then also, to be honest with you, I'm also a big believer in like getting help when you need it, and preferably as early as possible. So like, I'm not, like, you know, right? Like I've had some back issues, and as you know, everybody that's done jiu-jitsu. And before I get to a point where like I can't move at all, like I you know, ask you like, Dr. Ray, help me out, you know? And then getting, you know, massages, and doing certain things. Like I'm a big believer in being proactive about your injuries. Yeah. You know, it's so funny. It's like jiu-jitsu guys are stubborn sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and listen, and that's probably one of the reasons that makes them so good. You know, maybe just their tenacity. Sure. Yeah. But there is, you know, it's you know, it's not macho to just let injuries go.
Yeah, that's right.
You gotta really take care of them.
Yeah.
And like, you know, there's a lot of people, yourself included, that have been instrumental in helping me, you know, deal with those injuries before they get too bad. Yeah. I've seen career-ending injuries before, you know, where like somebody hurts. You know, they hurt their back, or they blow out their knee twice or something. And unfortunately they decide, well, that's it for jiu-jitsu. I can't do it anymore. Yeah. And that's heartbreaking. Yeah, like absolutely. I couldn't imagine not doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. I'm the same.
Right?
Yeah.
So any little injury, I'm like, you know, what can I do immediately to address this? Yeah. And try to get on the right path. And, you know, especially like, you know, working with you or and your team, like even it's changed like my warm up and my cool down. I don't know if I've ever told you that.
No,
I think I told. I don't know if I.
Maybe.
But like, I mean, since you know you know, when I was having some really bad back issues, and I was coming to see you, and we were working on it, and it started getting better and better, and then like the PT that was given to me from your team was like, that's my warm up and my cool down now.
Okay.
And I remember, you know, I'm in 54.
Yeah.
So like, you know, 28, my warm up was just like make a big circle with my arms 3 times, and then I'd be like,
Yeah, that's get after,
you know,
after that.
but my warm up and my cool down is way different now, and I take that really seriously.
Yeah. Another thing you had mentioned, and I hadn't heard this said in this respect before, that you have changed up the way, the volume and intensity that you roll with.
Yeah.
So for example, if some of our bigger teammates
Yeah.
ask you towards the end of your session, hey, do you want to roll? And you like politely decline, right? Because you know, at that point, you're a little bit more fatigued, and the risk of injury is, you know, possibly a little higher at that point.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I'm not the biggest guy in the world, right? So, I mean, I'm generally walking around, like, right now I'm just a little under 150. So, like, I mean, you know, but it's not uncommon for me to be in the 40s, 145, 6, 7, something like that. And some of these guys that are like, you know, 250, 260, 270, 300-pound guys, you know, even if I can technically dominate them or stop them from like submitting me or doing things like that, it takes a toll on my body. You know, I don't, you know, I don't know that they understand that. So, which is fine. I mean, I probably wouldn't understand it either if I was like a 300-pound person. I mean, but so I tell them, you know, and everybody's really cool about it. We've got the culture here that's kind of, you know, designed to make it okay to say no if somebody wants to roll. But like, I'll be really honest with them. Like, you know, if one of these bigger guys wants to roll with me, I say, you're around 1 or around 2. You're not around 7 or 8. So if you want to roll with me, you got to roll with me early. Yeah. Because by the time I hit like round 6, 7, and then a 300-pounder wants to roll with me, my body's already tired. It's already fatigued. I've already, you know, put out a lot of energy. And I find that that's when I am at the, you know, highest risk of getting injured. Yeah. When you're already fatigued, when you're already... And it's not just big guys, but some of these big guys are very good. Brown belts, black belts, very good. Yeah. So so I regulate that, and I used to being a small guy, and always being like, you know, I'm gonna roll with everybody, you know. I would always take on that challenge when I was younger. Yeah. But now, I mean, I've grown out of that. Like, there's no shame in saying, no, you're too big for me to roll with right now. Like, I'll roll with you when I'm fresh. But and that's like round 1, 2, or 3. But past that, no. Yeah.
Oh man, so much wisdom in that. For sure, right?
Yeah. Well, so much, you know, I think like, that's the thing. It's like, you know, you have to, like, and you hear this regarding jiu-jitsu all the time, but like, you know, you kind of have to check your ego and stuff like that. And then really the truth is like, I heard that all the time, like, check your ego, you know, don't roll with any ego, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh yeah, got it. You don't get it when you're 20. In 30s.
Right.
You don't.
Right.
You think you're rolling with no ego, but you're rolling with a tremendous amount of ego.
Right.
It wasn't really until like, you know, I was forced to do that you really start, you know, checking your ego. And that may mean either declining to roll with somebody because they're too intense or they're too big and you're not capable of dealing with that at that stage in the training and at your age, my age and my size. Or that also may mean, okay, I'll roll with you, but I'm, you know, gonna just be super defensive.
Right.
You know, and you know, and that's, you know, everybody wants to win.
Sure.
Right? But to go, no. The priority here is to walk away from this role not harmed. You know, that's a real ego check. Where even if there's moments in that role where you think, if I go to 9, I might be able to take this guy's back and stuff. but I also might end up on the bottom getting crushed and then feel it for the next week and a half.
Right.
So I go, no, I'm going to stay down here at 7 and 6 and you know, and roll tomorrow.
Right.
And the next day.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. It's like, you know, the goal is never to win every roll, it's to train tomorrow, right? I mean,
absolutely.
You know, and then like, you know, it speaks to, you know, what you said earlier about longevity and whatnot. You've been a prolific competitor. I mean, and you continue to compete. Do you feel it's necessary to compete?
No.
Okay.
First of all, no.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary to compete. No. Are there some benefits to competing? Many. I mean, many. Not just, you know, collecting medals or anything like that, but like the training for competitions, I think is remarkably helpful. I think the intensity that you deal with while you're competing is really eye-opening for a lot of people. I think I just think that is a scenario in which a lot of people don't ever find themselves. And if you're training jiu-jitsu for self-defense, or if you're training jiu-jitsu, you know, heaven forbid that you should ever have to use it on the street, the closest thing that you can get to the intensity of a, you know, real altercation is on the competition mats. Now, is competition a fight? No, it's a competition. You know, and you should never enter a competition with that mindset that it's a fight. You know, but it definitely heightens the intensity, forces you to lock in, and then if you ever are in a situation where you need to defend yourself, I think you have a better chance of getting into that spot of locking in and being calm and being ready if you've done some competition. No. To get better, do you need to compete? No. You know, you just need to be consistent and you just need to be rolling. Yeah. Like, it's funny, it's you know, I've competed quite a bit, and then when I'm getting ready for like a competition, some of the guys that are my best training partners that challenge me the most are black belts that have never competed. But when they're in here and rolling on the mats, it's like they challenge me and they like push me to be better. And I mean, they're super good. And I always think, man, if you competed, you'd be a monster. Like, but it's just they don't want to.
Right.
And so that's totally fine. They don't have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that there's benefits from competing, definitely. But no, you don't have to. You don't have to.
Yeah. Let's circle back to, you know, rolling intensity, because I know you had a great analogy that maybe you can kind of explain about, like, most rolls should be a conversation. Is that what
yeah. Well, I've always said, like, you know, rolling with somebody should be a conversation, like this even exchange, right? So you do something, I do something, you do something, I do something, and it's interactive. So that's how rolling in the gym should be. When you know, touch, bump, you should have this exchange, this back and forth exchange. You know, you do a move, I do a move, I set something up, you set something up, we should be going back and forth. That's like how I try to roll as much as I possibly can. Sometimes, like, you roll and it feels like somebody is like arguing, you know, like they're not listening to you. They're just trying to be louder than you. That's like the equivalent of that. If you take that onto the mat, is like, I'm trying to have a conversation. I'm trying to have this even exchange, but you're just trying to be louder than me, faster than me, stronger than me, you know?
Right.
And, you know, the best way to win those types of situations is you don't elevate the argument. You just keep having a conversation, you know? And so, and then a lot of times when you just keep having a conversation, that person stops yelling and then they go, oh, we're just having a conversation. And then you can have this back and forth exchange. I do say that if you're competing, right? Okay, I'll give you, okay, maybe it's not a conversation when you're competing. It's more of a debate.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
it's that, but it shouldn't be an argument. It should never be an argument, So when I'm competing, it's more of a debate. I'm trying to prove my point and they're trying to prove their point. And that's how the roll's gonna go,
Yes, yes.
But anytime you start arguing, it becomes emotional and it gets elevated and you say things or do things that you wouldn't normally do.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say, just like don't ever make a roll an argument. Make it a conversation when you're training with your buddies, and at the most make it a debate when you're competing.
Yeah, it's something I've appreciated on the mats here. That's really the culture that
It's cool, right?
that you've cultivated. And I think everyone has tried to follow suit with, which is
We're
awesome.
very lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's finish up by, I wanted to ask, like, what would you tell, you've been at jiu-jitsu for so long, what would you tell, as your 5th degree black belt self, what would you tell your white belt self now that you've had all this time competing, teaching, and at a world-class level?
Well, I would say, and remember, I would tell my white belt self was 21. My 5th degree black belt self is 54. So more than white belt, black belt, what the 54-year-old Brian would tell the 21-year-old Brian is that, you are a mortal. You can't just train like you're a superhero all the time. You have to protect yourself. So I would say roll like you're 50 and center your game around that. So what does that mean? That means don't rely on explosive movements, don't rely on speed, don't rely on strength, don't rely on flexibility. Does it mean don't ever use those things while you're rolling? No. Use those things if you have them, but it means don't rely on those things. Don't make those like if my whole game is based around how flexible I am, and then I get older and I'm no longer flexible, now I have to completely change my jiu-jitsu game, right? So I would tell my younger self to be a little bit more, be a little bit more careful and understand that you're not always going to be as fast as you are, as flexible as you are, as strong as you are. And so don't base games around that. You can look at it as a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah. When I hit my mid 40s or something like that, or maybe even early 40s, a lot of the things that I used to do stopped working. And so you could take that one of two ways. You can go, oh, this is horrible. I'm nothing's working anymore, blah, blah, blah. And I definitely had that little bit of feeling there. But then I kind of flipped it and I said, no, this is good. This allows me now to learn a whole new set of skills. And that was really exciting because, once you become a black belt, it's like they always say, that's the beginning of jiu-jitsu. It truly is the beginning, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That seems so ridiculous. I remember as a white belt, I was like, no, black belt is the goal. What are you talking about?
Yes.
That's once you get there, you're yeah. But then once you get a black belt, you really do understand why people say that. Because now you're going to have, it's like you have all this information, you have all these techniques, you have all this understanding of body movement, you have all this understanding now. It's now you can just begin to start developing your own systems and your own styles and stuff like that. And so, if I could, I would have told my younger self to get a head start on that. You know, get a head start on, even if it's like, and I try to tell younger guys this too, you know, some of these young kids that like move extremely well. I won't name any names, but there's these like younger guys that are just monsters because they outwork everybody. And I say, I would never tell you not to do that. Like, absolutely keep rolling the way that you're rolling. But maybe like, you know, 1 day a week or 2 days a week, roll like you're in honey. Go super slow. Like, don't let any fast movements. Or, you know, play this game that you would never play. Or, you know, don't use any pressure. Or whatever, you know. I mean, just challenging people to roll in a way that takes them out of their comfort zone is, I think, really important, especially as you get older, because these natural abilities are going to slowly diminish. And something needs to fill that gap if you want to stay on the mat and still keep having fun and be successful. And what fills that gap is like, you know, a different style of rolling that's more adapted to the body that you have now. Right. So constantly, you know, like upgrading your jiu-jitsu is probably what I would say to my younger self. I don't know if that makes any. I don't know if that was super clear.
No, that's super clear, man. And that's beautiful. I think that's one of the reasons why this art is going to be forever compelling and like why we love it, right? Yeah. Man, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. You know, thanks so much.
We'll talk. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.